Hello everyone, it's my honor to be invited here today. You see, in all my years in school, whenever I was called on by the principal, it was usually to be talked at and not to give a talk. So it's nice to be here on the other side for a change. Now, had it not been for the COVID situation this year, we would have had the chance to meet face-to-face and to chat. But I believe one vital lesson we've learned as a result of the virus is that communication is even more important in such times, especially when we can't meet physically. Talking has actually taken on an even more significant role. So let's get to today's topic, the joy of talking. Now the question is there really joy in talking? Well, actually, I feel that talking in itself doesn't really have any joy. If you think about it, it's just a functional thing, a means to an end, a way for us to communicate with one another. But the consequences of talking, now that is what can really, I guess, spark joy, if I may borrow a term from Marie Kondo. That feeling of joy is a result of talking, the words you hear from a good friend when you're feeling down, the encouragement your teacher gives you, the pep talk from your tennis coach just before a match. That talk lifts your spirits, gives your day a boost. Special occasions in life, the vows you say when you're getting married, the words you whisper when you hug someone. And even when you shout out to your kids, say, hey, be careful, don't forget your water bottle, bring your pencil case. That talk has no joy, but the consequence of talking there, well, there's serious consequences. Relationships are built, spirits are lifted, and the moments shared, that is what gives us joy. That is the joy of talking, or rather the joy that comes from talking. But all that talk must be two-way. You can talk at someone or you can talk with someone. And when you talk at them, it's a one-way conversation, but when you talk with them, it's an interaction and a connection is made. So for that reason, I like to keep things simple because I think it should be a conversation. I remember there was this one time I was speaking to a group of young people, and I asked them, did you hear the joke about paper? Never mind, it's terrible. And then a few days later, my son was in the car with me, and he noticed a loose part of the car, and before I could say anything, he said, hey, Dad, whatever you do, just don't use Velcro. And I was like, why? It's a total rip-off. You should have seen me beam with such great pride that entire day. My son had learned. I had made a connection with him in a way that, well, I hadn't really imagined, but those years of bad jokes did not just fly by. He listened, he learned, and now he shared. So yeah, they're bad jokes, but you wouldn't be laughing or cringing in your seat if you did not understand them. And it wasn't just about the joke, but also how I shared it, when and where I chose to share it. Now, as a journalist, we know that communicating is not just about speaking. It's very much about knowing what to say, when to say, and ensuring that it actually makes sense to who you're saying it to. And it's all part of a conversation. And I've learned that my words can be very powerful as well. It can lift someone's spirits, but it can also tear them down. And that's why we have to choose our words carefully. Now, when I do an interview with someone, I use my words to draw them out, to convince them to speak to me. The way in which I say them, the way in which I address them, you got to give them a reason to trust me so that they will open up with me and have that conversation with me. And I know today that's a challenge many of you have in schools. Having that conversation, that interaction. We're not a terribly outspoken lot by nature. I think our Asian values actually make us quite reserved and quiet, but that needs to change. Our kids must be able to share thoughts and ideas readily, and they need to be unafraid to do so. Only then can they be effective learners. And I believe the challenge of the future is one where it's a bit uncertain. We do not really know what kind of jobs will be out there in the future, but I do know this. The ones who are able to adapt themselves to changing environments, the ones who are able to learn on the go, the ones who are able to realign their skills to new areas, these are the ones who will all go well in the future. Because they'll be able to fit themselves into any job that comes along. And a lot of the learning will begin now as they are in school. I think we've got a great educational system, and I'm thankful for all of you, for many of you who mold our young ones every day. We've got the basics covered. We've got rote learning down pat, but I think the downside is we're too rigid. We always do things by the book. We follow the rules. I mean, all the rules. We're great workers, but are we dreamers? Are we risk takers? Do we embark on ideas without quite fully knowing the consequences? Do we ask the what if question? And do we have these conversations with those around us? Exploratory talk must come from an inherent curiosity. That gapo nature that is inbuilt in us needs to come out. It should ask questions. It should provide, or provoke rather, thought. It should not be afraid to challenge the norm. Now, the classroom setting needs to be an environment where this can happen, where dumb questions can be asked, where ridiculous answers can be given. And why you ask? Because if they can't do that in a safe place, then where else can they do it? And do we not learn from asking questions and making mistakes? I recall at the time I was in junior college and I had an econs class and I had to do a presentation. I presented and the teacher said, "Stephen, did you know your facts are wrong? How can you be sharing like that with your fellow classmates?" To which I kind of replied, I said, well, no, I didn't know it was wrong. That's why I'm the student and you're the teacher. Yeah, I was that kind of a student. But isn't it true? No one intentionally tries to fail or goes out of their way to get their facts wrong. They try, but they make mistakes. They don't always succeed. And we need to be able to be in that environment where we can fail and learn from that. I mean, my teacher didn't say anything. Of course, she was a bit upset with me, and I was discouraged because she obviously put me down. But I felt that I had also let my classmates down. But in reality, on hindsight now, I learned so many lessons from that. I did still go on to almost fail econs, but that's a separate story. So I figured that in life, we don't need to have all the answers. There are mistakes that we need to make, and that's where we learn. If I'd done the presentation with all the correct facts and answers, but if I had, let's say, copied it from someone else or got my tuition teacher to help me do it, then would I actually have learned from that experience? Now, presentations are great. They're much more a part of school life today, and it's a great way for kids to learn, to build confidence. In some ways, it's thinking out loud. You share your thoughts or ideas, and it spurs others to think about it too. I mean, can you recall a time when you were talking about something and said, "Why don't we try A, B, C?" And someone else said, "Yeah, maybe if we also add on D, E, F." And then an idea formed because someone had started it. The option to explore, to challenge the norm, to question status quo, that is exploratory talk. And we need to have more of those conversations in our classrooms. And it doesn't have to be in perfect English. I mean, all Singaporeans, we know that Singlish is such a wonderful and concise language. For example, at the drink store, you say, "Auntie, can I have one Ribena, please?" Can or packet? Can? Okay, can. I mean, where else would that be understood? We say so much using so little. We truncate our sentences. Instead of saying, "Let me explain to you why this particular theory would work effectively in this situation," we just say, "This one cannot." Because why? I love Singlish. It allows you to say so much with so little, but it also allows us to communicate a lot very quickly. Of course, there's a time and place for all of this, and using it in the right time and place is important. Now, believe it or not, you can have grammatically correct Singlish as well. I mean, I think back to one time where one day the past, the present, and the future walked into a bar. It was tense. Okay, I can't hear you laughing, but I'm hoping you're cringing and smirking away. Now, today, the classroom is the meeting place. It's the place where the past, present, the future, and even the future unknown meet up. But the environment should be anything but tense. It should be one of curiosity. That's my challenge to you today, to create an environment in your classroom where curiosity flows, a safe space that allows each and every one of your students to ask questions, to speak freely, to have conversations. And as teachers, you too should not be afraid to share your own thoughts and ideas and to say you don't know when you don't know, because they learn from you. It's not just about what you say, it's more about how you say it. It's not so much about how fluent you are or how flowery your language might be. It's about being there in the moment, being in that conversation with them. And that is your chance to have that conversation with them. Start it now, and it will become a part of them. And I believe they will go on to have conversations over and over and over again later in life.